So why on earth do I still shoot and use film as a wedding photographer? I just spent $742.62 on on an order of film recently. And if you saw that invoice, man, you'd be wondering like, why do you use film like that? Why can't you just use digital? There is so many digital options out there. There's so many presets that make things look like film. Why do you spend the money on shooting film? Well, today I am going to give you those reasons. And at the end of the video, I'm also going to go through some, film shots that I recently got back from this wedding season that I'm in the middle of right now. And I'm going to walk you through those, and hopefully those will, give some backup to these reasons that I'm giving. It kind of seems that, some of the big players, some of the people that I follow on Instagram that are, the big well-known wedding photographers, it seems like more and more some of those people are moving away from film and moving into, medium format digital, whether they kind of made their name around film. It seems like some of those people are leaving it. And for good reason. I think the two reasons that come to mind are the cost of film. The cost of Portra 400 has just, it has gone so up. Fuji 400H is no longer being made. And the fact that medium format digital is now a real option and is getting better and better in terms of being like using as an event photographer. So I think those are some legitimate reasons why, wedding photographers are moving away from film. However, I have 5 reasons to why I'm going to still continue using film, and possibly why you should too. Okay, so number 1 is that it pushes me to take the best photos. It slows me down. It helps me focus on the photos that I'm taking. And I think that way, it really pushes me to get better every time I pick up my film camera. Okay, so why does it make me do that? Well, the reality is that every time you hit that shutter, you're spending money. And I think while it doesn't need to be about the money, there is a certain level of pressure that just tricks your brain a little bit to just put a little bit more effort in. And so every time I'm looking through my viewfinder of, my Contax 645 or any film camera that I have in my hand, you just think a little longer. You just look the whole way around the frame and you're just, okay, do I need to include that tree? Or, okay, like, let me just take a look at everyone. Does everyone look good? And it just tricks you just a little bit to spend that extra time looking at your frame to make sure everything looks good. I think as a digital photographer, as someone who's grown up like only learning digital, like that's how my first real camera was a digital camera. And so I was just used to taking unlimited photos. So you take a photo and then you look at the photo and then say like, is this, is everything good in the frame? But what I like about using a film camera is that you're looking before you touch anything. You're looking to make sure everything looks good first. And I think whether you incorporate film into your photography or not, I think it's a really good exercise, even just to shoot with a film camera every so often, just to change your workflow a little bit, change your mind, change some things that you're so used to doing. And I think that's one of the best things that I love about shooting film. Number 2 is that I love how it renders colors. Now, there's 2 things going on. There is the actual film stock of, the film that I use. And then there's also how the lab processes it. And so specifically the lab that I have, they have reference photos that see, how I like things done. And then after they process the film and then they scan it, they make some tweaks to get it close to how I like things done. I really like that process. I love the process of, editing the photo with my own film presets that I've created over the years. And then when I get that film back, I love having the combination of 2 of those things to, I don't know, they kind of like work together. I do a little tweaks here, I do a little tweaks there, and then I get it together into a color, palette that I really love. And I like that process. It makes me kind of think. It makes me constantly be updating my own preset. Like every year I'm updating it just to tweak it, just to like, ooh, do I like greens like that? Or do I like them a little less saturated? Do I like a little bit more blue in my greens? It just pushes me to really think about color a lot more than when you have no additional kind of inputs, when you have no additional reference points like I do with my film images that I get back from the lab, a few weeks after, shooting the event. Yeah, I just really like the process. It makes me think a little bit more than I normally would. Number 3, it reminds me how to intentionally shoot a wedding. If you are a wedding photographer, or if you've ever shot a wedding, or if you can just imagine what it would be like to shoot a wedding, it's very easy to shoot 5,000 images. It's very easy to shoot 8,000 images. And that, when you're starting out, okay, you might do that, but you can't do that as a sustainable business. It's insane. You spend your whole life sorting through images instead of, choosing the best images and editing them. Like, you can be drowning in images if you take too many at a wedding. And to be honest, that's a really good way to miss the best photos, because there's just so many photos. It can create such fatigue when you're going through them that sometimes you're not maybe as sharp as you could be if you had a few thousand images less. And that's what I love about shooting film. It reminds me, I don't need to take 5,000 images for this wedding. You don't have to take thousands and thousands of images to properly shoot a wedding day. And when you're shooting on film, there's been so many times where there's been a section of a wedding day where I've shot, a few hundred photos. I get my roll of film back from the lab and, there's 16, 20, 25 images or something. And I look through and I love them all. And I can see how I've thought through each shot, and I properly shot, like a wide, a close, a medium, and the whole thing is told in 16 images. And I was like, I didn't even need to shoot all of these things because I was thinking intentionally about, okay, I have these many shots, and how many things do I need to cover? Or maybe I need some more shots. Maybe I need a few extra rolls of film in order to shoot this. But even still, you're thinking through really intentionally in how you're shooting this event. And that's why I love using film so much, is that it really pushes you to think a little bit more intentionally. I think that's another reason why I like using film and digital, because I get a little bit of the best of both worlds. The reality is, sometimes you need to take a bunch of photos. Sometimes the event is happening so quickly, things are happening so quickly in front of you, you need to, and it's really great to be able to take more than 2 shots. That's why I love using both film and digital. Number 4, there is something truly magical about the process. Whether it's the moment that you're just like looking through that viewfinder and there is just something, there is something great about that single reflex viewfinder. There's something great about not looking at a screen. There's something great about taking the photo, lowering your camera, and for there nothing to look at. Like, that was the process. You had to trust the process. And I just love that. I love that. I love that magical aspect of film when I think it creates a more connection between you as the photographer and your subjects and everything that's going on around you. And the artistic side of me, I feel like it fulfills so much of that artistic side that I just don't get when I just have a digital camera. And number 5 is that it keeps me from adding anything else to my system. Oh, I don't know if that's a good reason or not, but I shoot with a digital body and a 50mm for most of the time. And then I have a film camera with the equivalent of a 50-ish millimeter. I can't do any more things than that, especially because my film camera is a honking beast. It's a Contact 645. It's very heavy. I can't have a ton of lenses. I can't have a lot of gadgets. I have to keep it simple. And if you've listened to any of these videos, you know that I love simplicity. I love being focused and keeping things as simple as possible. What is the least amount of equipment that you can use and get the job done well? And what I love about film is that I like the balance that it has to I'm shooting things on digital and I'm complementing them on film. And that's how I shoot weddings. Okay, so now I'm going to back up what I say with some images. So I'm very excited to show you these. These are from a few weddings in the last couple months. And honestly, just looking through these images really reminded me, and I feel like this happens every wedding season, is that, I get film back and I'm like, oh, yes, this is why I shoot film. Okay, so the first one, this I think is a good representation of just shooting intentionally. This is one of those scenarios where I just looked at the images that I got back and I was like, I'm done. I have 4 images and I'm done. We took more than 4, but here's the example. Here is a faraway image of the bride. This whole section is kind of focused on, portraits of the bride, and boom. Nice faraway shot showing everything. Very serene, beautiful. I love it. Okay, let's come in for a nice close-up shot of these incredible florals. That's showing everything. All right, let's get a little closer up with the bride and a little bit of a different angle, and then a portrait of her. And I think there were so many options that I could have taken in this scenario. But I think the nice thing about shooting this roll of film on this bride was that I walked around, I looked at the best images. I was like, okay, where are the best places that we can shoot, and then shoot from those. And not only is it good for me, but it's also so good for the bride's experience, for the couple's experience, because sometimes it's not great when you're shooting like 500,000 images and you're spending all this time, when it kind of robs them from being in the moment. And so being a little bit more intentional, I think, is also great for their experience as well. And can we just look, speaking of rendering colors and everything, can we just look at her skin looks so great. The colors look so dreamy. I think this is a great example of, film at its best. Here's the same couple. Again, I love the colors rendered, and everything is just makes me very happy. Okay, so here is a few ceremony images. What I loved about this, and what it really pushed me to think about, was making sure everything was perfect, looking around at the frame before I took the photo. And in scenarios like this, in wedding photography, if you are one, is that a scenario like this is like, okay, shoot the ceremony spot quick. And it's really easy to take the photo, and then afterwards you're like, oh no, there was like a line of chairs that was crooked. And so in this scenario, I pulled up my film camera, I shot with this first, and I was like, ooh, you know what? Some of these florals are not here. Oh, I see someone's bag. Someone's bag is sitting on a chair. Let me move that. And so some of those things I may have not seen unless I spent just a little bit more time looking at the frame and making sure everything looked good. I loved how these detail shots of the ceremony space came out. This florist is incredibly talented, and I wanted to make sure that they were done and photographed really well. You could probably tell through a lot of the images that I share is that I really love florals. I really love florals on film. I think there's just the extra beauty of it. I really love it. And it seems like a lot of the florists love it too. They love getting photos from us. But here's an example of just making sure everything is right, spending the time, making sure her hands were relaxed, that the ribbon was going in the right direction, that there was a good spot for light. All of those things, I think film really helped me in these scenarios. Okay, this is a perfect example of I shot this on digital and I shot on film, and I shot a whole bunch of shots on my digital camera. And I didn't need them because I shot a roll of film on these ceremony details. This is another wedding, different ceremony. And I got the film back, and I literally just took all of the digital images and got rid of them all. And I just used the film shots that I took because I went through and I thought I was methodical about, okay, I need a shot here, I need a shot here, and I shot here and a shot here. And then I did it, and I love them. I think these shots of this reception is just a really good example of how well film renders colors, especially for flowers. And also just like, this is like the beautiful, magical look that I think film gets. And I'm just like, I just want to show you some of these photos because I love them. And some of the beautiful work that we've been able to capture from, vendors this year. This is another example of, film just helping me slow down and even communicating that with the bride, especially when you're doing, bridal portraits like this, is keeping it calm, enjoyable. And brides really love when you have that attention to detail, when you care about their hair, that it's in the right spot, and that if there was, a bug or a leaf on their dress that you got it off. They love that attention to detail. And it's a process that, shooting film myself, I want to make sure that all those things are perfect. And, this is a good scenario where, I wanted to make sure that there was no garbage in the ground in the corner, that we could really see her shoes as she was stepping through into this beautiful courtyard. And come on, like how film, speaking of the magical process, well, also film photos are just magical because I love the feeling of this photo and the version of this and the version of digital. It just seemed flat, even though I did my best job in making it magical. I love how film rendered this. Another great example of it just feels like extra magic. And like, well, come on, this chapel is like pretty beautiful. But I will say that, shooting this on Portra 400 as well, really helped. And again, this went back to making sure everything was perfect. Something like this, it's very easy to get your digital camera to shoot it and to not look at every single pew to make sure, a florist didn't leave a bag in the corner or a guest hasn't set their bag down. Looking through and making sure everything looks perfect is really great. And of course, you can do that on a digital camera. But inherently, I find when I pull out my film camera, I automatically do that because of the pressure of shooting on a physical medium like film. Couple last images. The color and the light rendered here is just like, so beautiful. And then the last shot, I think this was the last shot on the roll. And there's a lot of times when I have the last shot on the roll and I'm just waiting because I want it to count, right? I want the photo to count. And there's been several times this wedding season where I've had the last roll. I know it's the last roll, and I've just waited. I'm like, no, this is not the right moment. I want something. And boom, he went up to like fix her hair or something like that, and then got it. And I will say, that is a really good feeling moment, is to wait for the perfect moment to take the photo. And it just feels different when you just have one of these instead of like 40 of them and the right one is in the middle somewhere. It just feels really different. And I think it trains you as a photographer to look and to see and to wait and to anticipate those perfect moments. I just wanna live.